All right, welcome to the explainer. So, you want to fly a drone in Japan, right? Whether it's for a bit of fun or for a serious job, there's this one document that is everything, the official safety manual. And today we're going to break down exactly what you need to know, straight from the source, so you can get up in the sky safely. You know, right from the get-go, the official manual doesn't mess around. It calls drones a full-blown industrial revolution of the sky. And think about it, this is way bigger than just getting some cool shots for your social media. We're talking about changing how we handle everything from logistics to disaster response. But, and it's a big but, with that kind of power comes some serious responsibility. So, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the why behind all these rules. Then we'll jump into the nitty-gritty, the rules of the sky, what it means to think like a pilot, knowing your gear, and finally, how you fit into the future of all this. All right, let's get into it. It all starts with this fundamental balancing act, right? You've got this amazing, game-changing technology on one side and the absolute need to keep the public safe on the other. I mean, the promise is huge, we've already talked about that, but the danger, it is just as real. And we're not talking about what-if scenarios here. The manual itself points to actual incidents, drones getting way too close to commercial aircraft, crashes near people, even shutting down entire international airports. Yeah, that happened. So it's no surprise the government had to step in and lay down the law with a clear set of rules and a proper certification system. They had to make sure this whole revolution didn't, literally crash and burn. Okay, let's get into the weeds. And I need you to really listen up here, because this is the absolute core of what every single pilot has to know. And just so we're crystal clear, this isn't a list of friendly suggestions. This is the law. So, first things first, what actually is a drone in the eyes of the law? Well, the official name is unmanned aircraft, and the magic number is 100 grams. If your drone, with the battery, weighs 100 grams or more, it falls under these rules. Anything lighter is technically a model aircraft. Now, that does mean some of the rules are more relaxed, but don't get too comfortable. It's not a complete free-for-all. You still got to be smart about it. Okay, now this next part, this is probably the single most important concept in the whole manual. Seriously, it's called the specified flight. If you only remember one thing from this whole explainer, make it this. Just think of specified flight as a big bucket that holds any type of flight the government thinks is a little more risky. And the default rule for anything in that bucket? It's a no-go, prohibited, unless you get special permission or have the right certification. So what exactly lands your flight in that specified bucket? Well, it breaks down into two main things: where you fly and how you fly. So are you flying near an airport? Yep, that's a specified flight. Flying over a densely populated city? That's one too. Going higher than 150 meters? You guessed it. And then there's the how. Flying at night? That's a specified flight. Flying so far away that you can't actually see your drone anymore? That's called beyond visual line of sight, or BVLOS. That's a big one. Even something like flying less than 30 meters from people or over a big crowded event, all of those things require special permission. And what's super smart is how the system categorizes all this based on risk. It's like a three-tiered system. Category I is easy mode. It's not a specified flight, you're in an open field, daylight, no special hoops to jump through under the aviation law. Then you've got Category 2. This is for a specified flight, but one where you can control the environment. Maybe put up some barriers and keep people out. But then there's Category 3. This is the big one. This is doing a specified flight without being able to secure the area, like flying over a street with people on it. This is the highest risk level, and it requires the absolute highest level of certification. We're talking first-class pilot, first-class aircraft, the whole 9 yards. So the law lays out all the rules. It gives you the playbook. But at the end of the day, safety really comes down to one person: you, the pilot. So let's talk about your responsibilities and the right mindset to have. I mean, look at this quote right from the manual. It doesn't get any more direct. The pilot is responsible for everything, from the moment you power on to the moment you land. It's not on the manufacturer, it's not on your client, it's on you. Your number one most fundamental job is to fly safely, full stop. And this whole idea of responsibility really boils down to three key things. First, be prepared. Simple, right? But the manual is clear that a ton of accidents happen just because someone skipped their homework. Second, obey the rules. And that means all the rules, not just aviation law, but also local rules and just, basic good manners. And the third one is maybe the most important. Don't push it. Seriously, the manual says having the courage to call off a flight is a sign of a good pilot. Avoiding danger is always, always better than trying to power through it. And if you're wondering what happens if you drop the ball, well, the stakes couldn't be higher. If an accident happens and someone gets hurt or worse, you could be looking at criminal charges. We're talking professional negligence. Just how severe are we talking? Well, how about this? Flying under the influence of alcohol or drugs can get you up to a year in prison. And the law is super explicit here. This isn't about being wasted. Even a little bit of alcohol in your system is an absolute no-go before you fly. Zero tolerance. And for a lot of other things, like doing one of those specified flights we talked about without getting the green light, you could be hit with a fine of up to 500,000 yen. That is not a slap on the wrist. These are serious, serious consequences. So how do you stay out of trouble? It all comes down to your pre-flight checklist. And I mean doing it religiously, every single time. You need a solid flight plan, and that plan has to include what you'll do if something goes wrong. You need to physically inspect your aircraft, check the props, look for loose screws, the whole deal. You got to check the latest weather report, not just the general forecast, but the wind conditions. You need to know if there are any local rules for that specific spot. And last but not least, you have to check in with yourself. Are you tired, stressed, feeling a little sick? If you're not at 100%, the decision is simple. You stay on the ground. Okay, so we've covered the rules and the pilot's mindset. Now let's talk about the aircraft itself. Because, let's be real, you can't be a great pilot if you don't actually understand the tech you're controlling. A modern drone is basically a flying computer, and its flight control system is the brain and central nervous system all rolled into one. It's got a GNS, think of that like it's GPS, so it always knows its exact location. It has an IMU, which is kind of like its inner ear, sensing every tiny tilt and movement. It's got a compass to know which way it's pointing, and an altitude sensor to know how high it is. And all of that information gets fed into the main controller, the brain, which is making thousands of micro adjustments every second just to keep the drone hovering perfectly still. Knowing how that works is crucial, because it helps you spot a problem before it turns into a catastrophe. And you know what component the manual really singles out? The battery. It's so easy to just think of it as a power source, but it's so much more. Its weight affects the drone's balance. A sudden voltage drop, which can happen in the cold or if you're flying really aggressively, can cause the drone to just fall out of the sky. That's why managing your batteries, checking their health, their charge, their temperature, isn't just a good idea, it is absolutely non-negotiable for safe flight. Oh, and here's another layer for you. It's not just about aviation law. Your drone talks to your controller using radio waves, right? Well, that means it also has to follow Japan's Radio Act. To fly legally, your equipment needs to have this little symbol on it called the Giteki mark. That's the official seal of approval saying it meets Japan's technical standards. And this is a huge deal, especially if you're thinking about importing a drone from another country. If it doesn't have that mark, you could be in hot water for using illegal radio equipment. Okay, so we've gone through the rules, the risks, and the tech. So what does this all boil down to? What's the big picture here? It really comes down to this. Every single time you launch your drone, you're not just a pilot. You're an ambassador for this entire technology. It doesn't matter if you're flying for a big shot client or just having fun in a park. One bad accident can create headlines and set the whole industry back. But every safe flight, every time you make the responsible choice, you're helping build public trust. You're proving that this industrial revolution of the sky is something to be excited about, not scared of. So in the end, the future of drones in Japan isn't really up to the government or the manufacturers. It's up to us, the people with the controllers in our hands. So that's the real question you have to ask yourself every time you get ready to fly. Is this flight going to help build that future, or is it going to risk tearing it down?